Hey guys, so I'm back doing another book review. Sorry it's been a while. I've decided to take a break right now between doing the Hearts and Atlantis episodes and just talk about a book of short stories I really like called Swift Chase. It's by Laird Barron. Um, Laird Barron is a part of the new weird fiction movement, and this book of stories definitely demonstrates that. For those who are not familiar with Barron, he writes short stories and novels. They're definitely in that weird kind of weird tradition of weird fiction. They're not quite horror, but they're not quite like literary fiction either. They're somewhere in the middle. Uh, this feels like almost like experimental fiction at some point. But the stories in this there's a lot of stories in here. They're all kind of like based around horror themes, and they all kind of interconnect in a way, either literally by having characters throughout that appear, or even thematically they'll connect. So that's pretty interesting. Some of them in here are kind of like a noir style. Like they make me feel like if Raymond Chandler was a horror writer, almost. This is what some of these would read like. Um, Laird, definitely plays around with style and subject matter for sure, but there's stories here written in the first person, there's stories here written in the third, there's some written like almost in a limited third person. There's characters, like I said, that'll go in and out of the stories. And it also appears that like almost all of these are almost in the same universe almost. So that there's these weird events going on that may or may not be emanations of the same thing. What's haunting different characters. Um, just to go through some of the stories individually, the story opens with a story called Screaming Elk Mountain, which introduces a character named Jessica Mays, who is this fantastic, badass chick who shows up in a few of these stories. And either directly or indirectly, she's in a lot of these. And some of these she'll just be like mentioned as a side character. And some of these are about like characters in like a high school in Alaska, where Jessica went to high school at, that knew her. Some of these are about Jessica herself. Some of these are about characters who knew other characters and other stories. Some of them are about characters that aren't really related to any of these characters. It's very postmodern. It has like kind of that plays around with style, like something like somebody like maybe Pension or Donald Bartholomew would do, um, or Nabokov, people like that. It kind of plays around with like structure and style. If you like your fiction, well, one, weird. This is definitely the way to go. But two, if you like stuff that is horror but isn't like cliche or generic kind of spooky stuff, and this is also a really good way to go. The main reason I wanted to do this video was because I felt like Laird Barron, as well as other writers in kind of the weird fiction field, like Paul Tremblay, Stephen Graham Jones, people of that nature don't really get as much attention, and that's sad because there's a lot of talented writers like those two, and John Le Guin, who did The Fisherman, which I did a video on a while back. Don't really get the attention they need, and I think that's sad. Somebody has to talk about these people because they're writing really, really good fiction, and it's not getting discussed. Brian Evanson is another great writer in this field that no one's heard of. How do I really talk about this? That's one thing I kind of put off doing this video was I don't really know how to talk about some of these stories, or even kind of like the overall presentation plays a part in it too. Like it's like the whole book itself is broken into sections. Like stories will fall into this section, and other stories will fall into this section, and so on and so on. And it feels interesting when read all together. There's some great ones in here. There's a story that's set in like some kind of post-apocalyptic type world, but has reverted back to like Roman-esque culture about this guy and his faithful robot dog. Like that's a really great story. Um, there's, you know, like I said, the ones about Jessica Mace are great, and she goes through various scenarios, including uh, one with like a werewolf that's like taking like killing people. And there's another one. There's another story in here called Andy Kaufman Creeping Through the Trees. That's pretty fantastic. And it's just as weird as the story's title. Um, Very strange. Um, there's some interesting stuff. And there's some that are just like so freaking weird that like you don't really know what to, you come away from it like, well, what do I say about that? Like, how do you talk about that? There's a story in here about a killer at a party these high school kids are at, and it never specifically says who the killer is, but it's written from the killer's perspective. And I think that's pretty trippy. And then there's another story in there about, like, someone dealing with someone trying to kill them at a party, but it may or may not be the same person. So, like I said, it plays around with style and structure. It plays around with, like, narrative convention and your expectations when you're reading something. It subverts your expectations, but in a way that actually works, unlike the work of Ryan Johnson. Which, the less said of that, the better. So, anyways, definitely read Swift to Chase. It needs more attention. It needs definitely some more love. Check out some Laird Barron. He's a really, really good writer from what I've read. This is the first thing I've read by him, but I'll definitely be reading more because he's worth it. This is actually his 4th collection of short stories, so I'm like way behind. It's interesting. There's a story in here about like a guy that's killing people in an apartment complex in a blizzard, so people can't really escape. There's one about a dog sledder, and like he witnesses like this ancient group of like inhuman like hunters killing somebody, so they're hunting him, and like they're following him across the country, and that's interesting. Like some of the premises of these stories alone are just make them worth the read, but the actual execution of his writing and how strong it is definitely keeps you going. Yeah, that's the thing about good writers to me is like they wrote me in with the good premises, but their writing is strong enough to carry it, and it makes me like hanging on the edge of my seat the whole time. But yeah, definitely check out Slip to Chase, and also just check out anything by Laird Barron, as well as the other writers I've mentioned in my short list a minute ago, because weird fiction needs to be read widely. So check out the likes of Laird, check out Paul Tremblay, check out Brian Evanson, check out John Langan. Who else? Thomas Ligotti. Terry Windling has written some good stuff, kind of in that field, even though she's mostly known as an editor. Check out these people. They're definitely worth reading, and they definitely deserve more attention than whatever mainstream bullshit books are getting attention. Like, if, mainstream literature could focus more on the likes of, like, Barron and Kelly Link, and less on people like, James Patterson, the world would be a much better place. So anyways, I just wanted to do a short video on this. I didn't really have a lot to say. I just wanted to kind of talk about this, kind of talk a little bit about the stories in it, and definitely encourage you guys to read it. But anyways, check out Swift to Chase, Laird Barron, excellent writer, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.